So for today's video, we have an absolute game changer. I'm gonna be sharing with you a financial institution where you can get multiple lines of credit from the same lender. So we're talking about Woodforest National Bank. Now, there are some new data points I wanna let you guys know about. Just to give you an overview, so Woodforest National Bank, they were originally based in Texas, but they've expanded to multiple states. They have over 770 branches in over 17 states. This is a decent sized community bank with over 9 billion in assets. You might actually see in some Walmart locations, they actually have a Woodforest inside of the Walmart. So a lot of the branches are located inside Walmart. And in terms of the states where their products are eligible, we're talking about Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. They have what's called the Business Reli unsecured line of credit. This is their streamlined business line of credit. They have multiple lines of credit, but this is their low-hanging fruit. As far as underwriting, this one is the easiest to get qualified for. So a minimum of $500 up to $10,000 limit. And again, this is unsecured. So they're not doing a UCC or anything like that. The unsecured line of credit is through the Numerated platform. Now, Numerated is a loan origination system. It's basically a fintech company that allows banks to do fast underwriting. A lot of times banks might have two different types of business lines of credit. They have more like the streamlined no docs or low doc. And then they have the more traditional line of credit where they're going to ask for tax returns, P&L, schedule of business debt, personal financial statement. You can apply for this online and get a very fast decision. A lot of banks are now transitioning to these fintech loan origination systems. You have platforms like Numerated, Foundation, with Clutch. So you're able to get fast decisions. Now, the business products at Woodforest National is that they don't report to personal or business, right? So it's not going to help you with building business credit. So it's almost like a hidden trade line, a hidden account, 1 year of business taxes only. All of the banks that utilize Numerated are going to be pulling from Experian because that's their preferred service providers. For those who are not familiar, Numerated is a digital loan origination system. They gather a lot of the data on the back end. So let's say pulling credit from the credit reporting agencies, checking certain information, doing identity verification, having APIs to like the Social Security Administration, pulling your Secretary of State information on your business. This is one of the emerging platforms. Just keep in mind this platform I'm telling you about. In the same way years ago, I told you about Plaid. Numerated is really starting to pop out a lot, over 50 billion in total lending process on the platform. Now, once you actually get a term sheet, some lenders might want you to name them as the beneficiary on your business liability insurance. Some might file a UCC. Now, in this case, they're not going to file a UCC on the unsecured line of credit with Woodforest National Bank. One of the other differences with the Business Reli unsecured line of credit, it is fixed at 16.99%. A lot of the lines of credit that you might find as far as commercial lines of credit are usually going to be variable and tied to the bank prime rate. This particular one is fixed at 16.99. The higher rate, the lower limit, the streamlined application, this is going to be low hanging fruit. So if you don't have the best credit, or maybe, you didn't generate as much revenue, this is still a business line of credit that you can seek and you can get a fast decision. So as far as the ease of underwriting, this is going to be the easiest one. They have another product. This is the Business Revolving line of credit, your traditional commercial line of credit, minimum of $5,000. One of the interesting things about this particular product is that it's actually not unsecured. It's actually somewhat of a secured line. A lot of times when you might see a secured line, that might just mean a blanket UCC lien. But with this particular product, it's actually secured by specific business assets, excluding real estate. And pretty much they'll go up to 80% LTV on the value of that collateral. So this could be equipment, machinery, vehicles, whatever the case is, but you can't use commercial real estate or investment real estate to collateralize the revolving line of credit. You would have to get like a third party appraisal of the value of that collateral. This particular product is going to be a little bit more intensive as far as underwriting, and you're not going to be able to get it very quickly. So they've kind of differentiated the products within Woodforest National Bank. You will need to provide a year-to-date profit and loss statement as well as a business debt schedule. Now, unlike the Reli line of credit, this one has an interest rate that's prime plus 3. Instead of a fixed rate, this is a floating rate. You're looking at about an 11% interest rate. The other great thing about Woodforest National Bank is that you can get the Reli line of credit as well as the business revolving line of credit as long as you can cover the debt service for both products. So this isn't one where you can only choose one or the other. The underwriting process is going to take a little bit longer. I would say the Reli, again, is going to be the low-hanging fruit. This is called the executive revolving line of credit. And this one is really interesting. So it starts at a minimum of $25K up to $150,000. And again, this one is underwritten in-house. So they're going to be pulling Equifax. Now, again, underwritten in-house is going to be Equifax with the Relay line of credit, the streamlined product that's underwritten through Numerated. I'll show you on the website. It's a different application, a look and feel to it. So you'll know which product and what data points apply depending on what you're applying for. This one is technically a personal line. It's not a business line. So it's going to just be looking at personal information to qualify you. So this will report to personal credit. So I just want to make that distinction. So the business revolving line and the unsecured Reli line of credit do not report to personal or business. The executive line of credit will report to your personal credit. So this is not a business line of credit. This is a personal line of credit. To qualify, you must have at least 2 years of personal taxes. And with this one, you don't apply online. You must apply in branch. You're looking at prime plus 2 to 2.5 variable. So it's going to depend on what rate you qualify for. A minimum of $125,000 AGI, adjusted gross income, and it's going to be on your personal tax return for both years. And then the next qualification is that you must have either a minimum net worth of $500K or $100,000 in investable assets. So either or. As part of this, you also will need to submit a personal financial statement. And again, they use this so that they can determine what your, net worth and assets are. Now, I didn't go over the CD secured line of credit or the term loan, but right here you see the business Reli unsecured line of credit. And the business revolving line of credit, essentially a secured line of credit because you do have to pledge collateral, as it says right here, secured by business assets. And I actually spoke to a rep because a lot of times when you see secured by business assets, that might just mean they're doing a blanket UCC. And so it's all your business assets. But with this particular product, they're tying it to a specific asset, not just a blanket lien. So it actually has to be a specific asset. So this is really like a secure line of credit. Now, just take notice of this. When you click on the application to apply for the business revolving line of credit, it's going to look something like this. All right. So this is their actual application. This is what it looks like in-house. I just wanted to distinguish this because when you go to the Reli unsecured line of credit, it says you're being redirected to Numerated to apply for a Woodforest loan. Now, again, Woodforest is still funding the loan. They're just using a different platform for the loan origination. Different data points apply. With the unsecured Reli line of credit, you can get a pretty fast decision within 24 hours. So I just wanted to show you guys the differences depending on what you're applying for. They have other term loans, owner-occupied real estate, business auto loans up to $250,000. And then right here, this is what I was talking about, the executive line of credit, $25K up to $150,000 unsecured line of credit. But again, you must apply for this line of credit with a Woodforest commercial or retail banker. All right, now let's just recap the data points again. The Reli unsecured line of credit, 500 up to 10,000. This is unsecured. This is going to be an Experian hard pull utilizing the Numerated platform, does not report to business credit, and you will need at least 1 year of business taxes. Now, a lot of line of credit, you need 2 years. With this one, you just need 1 year. It only goes up to 10K, so it's not a huge line of credit, but it is more of an entry level streamlined line of credit. Now, then we have the business revolving line of credit, 500K minimum limit, secured by business assets up to 80% LTV, excluding real estate. It does not report to business. You will need 2 years of business and personal taxes, year-to-date profit and loss, and business debt schedule. This is going to be in Equifax hard pools, right? So this is going to be prime plus 3. And then we have the executive line of credit. This does report to personal credit. Equifax hard pool, you have to apply in branch, 25K up to 150, prime plus 2 to 2.5 variable, minimum 125,000 adjusted gross income, 2 years of personal taxes, and a minimum net worth of 500K or $100,000 in investable assets. Now, overall, I think Woodforest does offer some pretty interesting products as far as their revolving lines of credit. The Reli, I would say, would be a good product for entry-level businesses. As far as their actual business revolving line of credit, I think there's better options out there. The fact that you have to tie it to a specific piece of collateral, I would say, is somewhat of a downside because it's just going to make the underwriting process much longer. They have to get a third-party appraisal, see what the value of that collateral is, and then, whatever 80% is, that will be what your line of credit. And then with that as well, you're going to have to renew that after a certain period. Another thing I want to say with the Reli unsecured line of credit, that is a 24-month term, right? So after 24 months, you get reassessed, or however they decide if they want to renew it with you based off, how you manage that line of credit. What I find pretty interesting is the executive line of credit. That is a personal line of credit, but it has a high ceiling, a minimum of 25K, and it only just requires 125,000 in adjustable gross income. So let's say if you're not a business owner, you have no interest in getting a business line of credit, you can go for the executive line of credit. And I guess that would work pretty well with, let's say high income professionals who have the tax returns where they can qualify. So anyways, that's all I wanted to cover for today's video. Let me know your questions right down below. And until next time, take it easy and we'll talk to you soon.